much as we all regret what happened, the fact is that this tragedy is about the actions of one individual.
In the 1990s, Jenny Jones was the queen of nice, the one you watched to escape the chaos of the trash TV era. Her show was all makeovers and long-lost families. But in 1995, a harmless secret crush segment ended in a brutal murder.
It's a moment that changed the way television talk shows operated. A guest murdered a fellow panelist that he felt had embarrassed him on television.
And a $25 million lawsuit that exposed a dark, negligent secret behind her friendly mask. Because the Queen of Nice was a lie. The trial proved that behind the friendly makeovers, her show was playing the same dangerous game as all the rest. A game that this time would cost a man his life. The Queen of Nice. Long before the daytime fame, she was Janina Stronsky, born in Palestine in 1946, whose Polish immigrant parents were forced to flee during the 1948 Arab-Israeli War, eventually settling in Canada. This experience as a refugee, an outsider, forged her entire personality, creating a deep and desperate lifelong need to be liked. This became her psychological root. She wasn't driven by a political mission like Jerry Springer. She wasn't an activist, but was instead driven by a raw, fundamental need for approval. She found her voice not in serious debate, but in making people like her, ultimately finding her calling in stand-up comedy. This drive took her to Star Search in 1986, which she won. From there, her career took off, and the ultimate prize came in 1991. She was given her own daytime talk show. But here's the part people forget. The Jenny Jones Show that launched in 1991 was a serious, highbrow, traditional talk show. She was positioned as the next Oprah, tackling serious issues with serious guests. And it was a colossal, unmitigated flop. Ratings were in the tank. The show was boring, preachy, and on the verge of being canceled after its very first season. This was her first crisis. She was about to lose everything: the fame, the approval, the stability she had craved her entire life. So, in 1992, she and her producers at Telepictures made a desperate choice. They looked at the TV landscape. Oprah had the high ground, Springer was pivoting to chaos, and Ricky Lake was exploding. Jenny's show had to compete, or it would die. This was the ticking time bomb of her career. She made a fatal decision. She would keep her Queen of Nice persona, but adopt the dangerous formats of her rivals. This was the dark, brilliant compromise. She would be the safe one, the one with the bright, pastel-colored set, the girlfriend host. But she would be running the exact same plays as her rivals. The show looked nicer than Springer, but it was built on the same trash TV foundation of confrontation and gotcha moments. This was the illusion. It felt like harmless fun. And the new format of makeovers, paternity tests, and secret crushes was a ratings juggernaut. But the looming shadow of the ratings war was growing. Every week, producers had to top themselves. The pressure was immense, and this is where the secret of the show's negligence began. The Queen of Nice was a brand, but behind the scenes, the show was allegedly becoming reckless. This wasn't just about finding drama, it was about manufacturing it. Producers were tasked with finding surprises and big reactions. According to insiders, this meant finding guests, learning their specific psychological vulnerabilities, and then exploiting those vulnerabilities for the camera. The Secret Crush segment was a perfect example. It seemed harmless. A person admits a crush, and the target is brought out. But the producers were allegedly playing with fire, bringing guests into a high-pressure environment under false pretenses. They were allegedly misled, told they were coming on for a different reason. The ticking time bomb wasn't just if a segment would go wrong. It was when the show's entire model was built on a lie. The lie that these were harmless confrontations. And Jenny, as the nice host, was the one who sold this lie. Her deep need to be liked made her the perfect salesperson. She wasn't a ringmaster like Springer. She was a girlfriend sharing gossip. This made the show feel safe. This trust was her greatest asset, and it was this trust that would make the coming tragedy so devastating. By 1995, Jenny Jones was at her absolute apex. She was a multimillionaire, a beloved icon, and the queen of a harmless daytime empire. But as she prepared to tape another Secret Crush episode, she had no idea that the ticking time bomb was about to explode, and prove that her harmless show was lethally negligent. The ambush that turned lethal. By 1995, Jenny Jones was at her absolute apex, a multi-millionaire icon of harmless fun. Her Queen of Nice brand was a ratings juggernaut, a cash cow built on the illusion of safety. She was untouchable. She wasn't just on TV, she was a fixture, seen as the safe hour of daytime, a place for makeovers, not mayhem. Her ratings were often neck and neck with her rivals, proving that her nicer model was a billion-dollar formula. The ticking time bomb from Act 1, competing with trash TV while hiding behind a nice persona, was working perfectly. The looming shadow of producer negligence was just part of the business model. And then came March 6, 1995. The show taped an episode titled Same-Sex Secret Crushes. On the surface, it was a high school fantasy, but this segment was a lie. The producers had booked Scott Amedure, a 32-year-old man with a secret crush, and his 24-year-old neighbor, Jonathan Schmitz. This is the core reveal, the secret that the $25 million lawsuit would later expose Jonathan Schmitz was not told the real reason he was on the show. He was lured to Chicago, all expenses paid, under the false pretense that he was there to meet a secret admirer. The Queen of Nice was running an ambush. The producers, in their relentless hunt for a big reaction, intentionally withheld the most crucial piece of information, that the admirer was a man. And here is where reckless becomes lethal. According to later testimony, Jonathan Schmitz was known to be a volatile man with a history of mental health struggles, substance abuse, and, most critically, he was known to be deeply, violently homophobic. The producers either didn't do their homework, or, as the Amedure family's lawyer would later argue, they knew just enough to suspect they'd get an explosive reaction. In fact, the lawyer would later argue that the producers intentionally sought out a volatile guest, that they didn't just allow the humiliation, they engineered it for maximum shock value. The show was a con, a dangerous high-stakes gamble. So, the cameras roll. The audience is cheering. Jenny, the girlfriend, is smiling as Scott Amedure describes his fantasies. Then, Jonathan Schmitz is brought out, relaxed and walking straight into a trap. Jenny, the trusted host, asks him to guess his admirer. He guesses a female friend. Jenny plays along, then turns to Scott Amedure and says, "It's Scott!" The gotcha moment is complete. The camera zooms in on Schmitz's face as he freezes. He's on national television, and the audience is laughing at him. He froze, but his words, though smiling, were a clear sign of his panic. He turned to Amedure and said, "You lied to me. I'm a heterosexual man, and I am not interested in you." He was trying to regain control, to play it off as a joke, but his body language and that forced smile screamed humiliation. He later described his reaction as internal panic, stating he was embarrassed on national television. This was the moment the ticking time bomb exploded. The fun was a lie. The show had allegedly ambushed a vulnerable guest and broadcast his humiliation to a laughing audience. The lethal fallout, however, hadn't even begun. The show's producers, in what would later be seen as a horrifying act of negligence, put all three participants, Schmitz, Amedure, and the friend, Riley, on the same plane back to Michigan after the taping. Schmitz was trapped, forced to sit just rows away from the two people who had just publicly humiliated him. The show never aired, deemed too controversial, but the damage was done. The fuse was lit. 3 days later, on March 9, 1995, Jonathan Schmitz found a suggestive sexual note left on his door, allegedly from Scott Amedure. This was the final spark, the humiliation from the show, simmering for 72 hours, now boiled over. Schmitz's day turned into a true crime timeline. He withdrew money, drove to a gun store, and purchased a 12-gauge shotgun. He then drove to Scott Amadure's trailer, confronted him about the note, and when Amedure reportedly smiled, Schmitz returned to his car, grabbed the shotgun, came back, and shot Scott Amedure twice in the chest, ending his life. He then calmly called 911. His first words to the dispatcher were, "I just shot someone." The Queen of Nice was now connected to a homicide. The harmless fun had a body count. The secret of the show's format, its reckless, negligent pursuit of gotcha moments, was no longer a secret. It was a national headline. The looming shadow from Act 1 wasn't just a ratings war, it was a man's life. It's shocking to see how harmless fun could hide such a lethal secret. Here on RetroFame, we're dedicated to uncovering the true, often hidden stories of the figures you thought you knew. If you believe these stories need to be told, hit that subscribe button so you never miss another deep dive. Now, for Jenny Jones, this murder was just the beginning. The fallout and the $25 million trial that would end her career was even more dramatic. The $25 million verdict that erased her. The murder of Scott Amedure wasn't just a local crime story. It was a national explosion that vaporized the Queen of Nice persona. This was the moment the 1990s trash TV bubble burst, forcing the public to ask, have they gone too far? This wasn't Jerry Springer's set, where violence was part of the show. This was the safe show, and a man was dead. The fallout split into two legal battles. First, the criminal trial of Jonathan Schmitz. His entire defense was the Jenny Jones show. His lawyers argued Schmitz wasn't a cold-blooded killer, but a man with mental health struggles who was lured, ambushed, and publicly humiliated by the show. They argued for diminished capacity, that the humiliation created the motive. This was the first time a talk show's negligence was argued as a legal defense, and it worked. The jury, convinced the show was a mitigating factor, found him guilty of second-degree murder, not first, sentencing him to 25 to 50 years. But the Schmitz trial was just the opening act. The Amedure family was furious. They didn't just want the killer in jail, they wanted the architects held responsible. In 1996, they filed a $25 million wrongful death lawsuit directly against the Jenny Jones show and its producers. This was the trial that would end everything. The central claim: negligence. The Amedure family's legal team, led by the fiery attorney Jeffrey Feger, argued the show wasn't just a neutral platform, but an active participant in the death. Feger argued that the show had a duty of care to its guests, and it failed, catastrophically. He argued that the producers knew an ambush was good TV, knew a same-sex secret crush would get a big reaction, and did no psychological background checks. They didn't care about the volatility of their guests, they just cared about the ratings. The show, Feger argued, had produced this murder. This is where Jenny Jones's damage control began, and it was a disaster. The Queen of Nice, the woman whose entire career was built on being a girlfriend, was forced to take the stand. And the girlfriend was gone. In her place was a cold, defensive executive who showed no remorse and took no responsibility. On the stand, she and her producers argued, "We didn't pull the trigger." They claimed the show was just TV, harmless fun, and they had no way of knowing what Schmitz was capable of. But Feger hammered them, exposing the ambush format hidden behind the pastel-colored set. Then, in 1999, after a long, brutal trial, the jury came back. They found the Jenny Jones show negligent. They found that the show, by ambushing Schmitz and intentionally embarrassing him, had created a foreseeable risk of violence, and the verdict: the jury awarded the Amedure family $25 million. The Queen of Nice was gone. Her brand, her persona, her entire career, it was shattered. But this is the final, bitter twist. The show appealed, and in 2002, the Michigan Court of Appeals overturned the $25 million verdict. The court ruled that, legally, the show had no duty of care to protect one guest from the criminal actions of another. Legally, the Jenny Jones show had won, but it didn't matter. This was the final detail. The show was morally dead. The public had seen behind the curtain. Jenny's cold testimony. The producers' ambush tactics. The harmless fun was a lie. Sponsors fled, affiliates dropped the show, and the Jenny Jones brand was now toxic, synonymous with the same-sex crush murder. The show was quietly canceled in 2003, and Jenny Jones, she vanished. She was erased. Her career ended not by the legal verdict, but by the moral one. So, how should we remember Jenny Jones? Was she the Queen of Nice or the Queen of Negligence? We've seen her rise as the safe host and the dark, negligent ambush tactics she used to compete. We saw the lethal consequence, a brutal murder, and a $25 million trial that put her entire brand on stand. Her story is the ultimate cautionary tale of what happens when the pursuit of ratings ignores the human cost. The Court of Appeals may have cleared her legally, but the court of public opinion found her morally guilty. That verdict didn't just end her show, it erased her from television, leaving a legacy defined by one tragic episode proving harmless fun can be deadly. But What do you think? Was the Jenny Jones Show a negligent party that was directly responsible for this tragedy? Or were they just victims of an unstable individual's unpredictable actions? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. We have a new video, just like this one, coming next week. If you love digging deeper than the headlines, make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss another video. If you love this story, we've got more celebrity deep dives queued up for you. Just click the videos on your screen to continue. Thanks for watching.